All right, what's going on, everybody? It's been a minute since I recorded a video, especially in the vehicle. I think the last one I did when I was in the vehicle was discussing the not really the results, but having a bone marrow biopsy done. Kind of going through that and, dating and whatnot, going through kind of a chronic illness standpoint. I know I talked about it a couple times. Last video was, I believe, utilizing AI for, wingman. I don't know how well I articulated that thoroughly, but maybe I'll do a refresher on that one here pretty soon, on some other things. This one, I'm going to do a combination. I thought about doing two different videos. One is going to be kind of where my progress is with this myeloproliferative neoplasm situation, chronic illness, on the inside, but physically fit, etc. on the outside. And also talking a little bit about ex-girlfriend and those shenanigans. I'm not sure I mentioned before. Maybe mentioned it briefly in the last video of her coming over. She really reached out to get her bicycle. I used the opportunity to see if she was interested in kind of getting together. She said she was, and then, had her come over. We cooked dinner together and kind of what transpired with that. So I'm driving back home and then going to work. So we got some weather coming in, so hopefully the rain doesn't affect us too bad. But yeah, we'll go ahead and just drive out of here and then get into it. We can start with the first bit. What I wanted to kind of discuss about was some issues I've had of late, right? So I had a bone marrow biopsy, had a video on that, and then that weekend I went and traveled for work, ended up in the ICU, not in the ICU, but at least the hospital, while in San Antonio, traveling for work. Had another GI bleed. Wasn't as bad as the one I've had previously, but again, is most likely a varicocele in my GI tract, esophagus or stomach. They went down, looked, didn't find anything. The bleeding stopped. They went up the colon too, did not see anything. Everything looked pretty normal. And then I had a follow up, and they had one banding on one suspect varice that is caused from this underlying blood condition that I got, that I have a clot in my portal vein, which my body's adapted in the lack of blood flow to adapt blood flow to my liver and spleen, etc. And sometimes you get these varices that pop through. They haven't been as bad. I had that follow up after that, the one when they banded when I was back home. Everything from a GI perspective looked good. I'm just leaving the doctor's appointment now from a GI standpoint. So yeah, that all went down. And then nobody has ever been in the hospital before, especially when you're not, you're sick, I would say, in a lack of better terms, but you're not feeling 100% essentially what you are when you have one of these, because of the blood loss. But then when the blood stops leaving and you're trying to go through some additional stuff to hopefully eventually feel better, you really want to get out, because you really can't recover in a hospital, man. You can't get sleep, unless you have a room dedicated by yourself. And I've only had that situation one time whenever I was in the ICU, but this one I was paired up with somebody, and then depending on the situation, right, they could keep you up. Definitely, if they got their TV on all night, you got to stick your headphones in, or it's an older person like I had, where he was like hallucinating and had some degenerative mental disorders, that he was confused, which I felt bad for the guy, right? But eventually I got out of there, got back on an iron pill, took a week off from the gym, got back into the gym, and then trying to progress my life as normal as possible. It's the only thing you can really do, is just keep positive mindset and keep progressing forward and trying to get your strength back. And then, eating well, not drinking, taking your supplements, going to your doctor's appointments and adhering to their advice. So we did all that. So then I met with my oncologist, hematologist over the bone marrow biopsy results, and it wasn't good news. Wasn't drastic news where we got to do something immediately, but the progression has moved into kind of an undisclosed, undetermined myeloproliferative neoplasm, because I'm JAK2 positive. The JAK2 protein is messing with my bone marrow, right? So there's fibers in my bone marrow, I guess, layman's terms. You can always look it up. I've done some research and have done some things especially through AI, just to help me kind of analyze my results and kind of understand in layman's terms, what's going on diagnosis wise and such. So, but it progressed to myelofibrosis. So I got a couple different options. One option I'm currently on is is a JAK2 inhibitor, which I've been on a JAK2 inhibitor before. Jakafi, ruxolitinib is kind of the medical term, and this one is now Vonjoy. This is a parslipnib or something like that. So sorry, I mispronounced those, which I know I definitely did. But anyway, I am on those to hopefully lower some counts. So I started that. Hopefully it lowers my counts, inhibits my JAK2 receptors, and then shrinks my spleen, because ultimately the ultimate outcome is to progress to a bone marrow or a stem cell transplant, right? So at my age, being young, fit, strong, I think I'd be better off for that right now. Essentially, to go through that chemo treatment. It's a long process, right? I mean, it's pretty extensive chemo to get my counts down to kind of a below than average, and then have my body accept new stem cells, obviously, and then hopefully I don't get an infection or my body rejects that, and the mortality rate is 5 to 10%. But on the projection that I'm at, the 10-year life expectancy is around 70%. So I'm looking at 46, 47 years old. 70% of the time you still be around, but at that point, how healthy will you be? How strong will you be from that perspective, right? I'm not sure. Hopefully strong enough. But I think, going down the transplant board, doing all those preliminary tests, figuring out a match, hopefully only have one half sibling, which would be a 50% match, be graded to be a 100% match, which that's possible in the transplant board, obviously. But anyway, going down that road. So it's not good news, it's not bad news. You can't let it kind of get under your skin and keep you from living your life. I guess hopefully I'm not spiraling down a bad path, but I'm trying to live my life like tomorrow's not granted, not guaranteed, right? I'm not going out and just spending obnoxious amount of money, but I'm going out with people. I'm being a little bit more assertive with stuff. I'm asking more people out, like women for dates, things like that, and just living like there is no tomorrow a little bit. Obviously, taking more opportunities for myself and my family and my daughter, and doing some fun things with, and looking at maybe a couple extra trips, just because while I'm doing it while I'm healthy, because the whole transplant process is definitely a year-long process of recovery, 6 months disability, etc. So yeah, I got that going for me. That's kind of where we're with that. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, anyway, probably have to cut some of this out from driving here, which is fine. I can do some editing. So the next topic I want to talk about was just having my ex come back over, seeing if we can rekindle thing. At least that's what my idea was. I kind of wrote out a long journal entry paper that elaborates this, and I don't have it with me. Obviously, I'm driving, but essentially, she did ask, why I wanted to get together. And I was like, well, I wasn't the one that ended the relationship. She did. So from that perspective, when she reached out, I used the opportunity to see if there was any interest for her wanting to get together, and it was. But her mindset was she was just doing it to be nice and friendly. So there was no real romantic spark on her end. Obviously, I was waiting to see how much interest she had. And again, the whole time of the relationship was really just seeing what that was all about. She didn't really give me any clear indicators of interest throughout the whole relationship that she really was digging me. And it was the same thing here. It was nice catching up, right? I don't think it did anything to hurt or help me in moving on, right? Obviously, it takes longer for guys to kind of move on from that kind of relationship than girls. And I mean, she even mentioned that she did miss me at the start, and now she doesn't. She's kind of over it and moved on, which that's never reassuring. So that kind of told me what I needed to know. And from that perspective, we had our dinner. We made pizza together and flatbreads or whatever. It was a good time. That was actually a good idea, right? Some of the stuff that I use AI to help generate good ideas, but she couldn't stay that long because she was on call. Again, this is on a Friday. She came over on Friday around 6:30. She had to leave around 8:30, which she did. She was on call tomorrow morning at 7, right? The opportunity to stay the night and have something more was there, but she did not take advantage of that, and I'm not going to sit around and beg either, which is one thing you shouldn't definitely do. And then once she left, I kind of left it up to her. I was like, hey, if you want to do this again, just let me know. She mentioned that she wanted to know about my progress with this medical stuff, because I kind of let her know all that, because she knew about this when we were going out, which is not a big deal, and she wanted me to stay in touch with her on that, which I won't. I don't think it's necessary, right? If you're going to be in my life as a romantic partner, right, not a friend, not friend zone thing, then I definitely will, right? But if it's just you want to know because you want to know, or you're just being nice and you're saying that, right, I'd rather not. I'd rather have people in my life that's going to actually be supportive in different ways, right? Whether it's supportive, not financially, but just like I don't even know if emotional support would be even the right thing, but I mean, essentially it is what it is. Kind of emotional support or backing or giving you a sense of relief, right, during this whole process. So yeah, so that went over. It didn't go over like a turd in a punch bowl, but it could have been. My idea was it was better. I thought maybe she had a little bit of romantic interest if she would have wanted to stay the night, regardless of her non-flirtatious vibes. I would have thought something would have been there a little bit more, but it wasn't. So again, just I would say going back and no contact. That's probably not the right term, but just cut ties, right? So never reach. Yeah, not reaching at her until she reaches out to me. Is what I'm in now. So I wouldn't necessarily call it no contact necessarily. So so that's where we're at with that one. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about next. Maybe it's just getting back in the dating field. Some of the girls I've dated. Maybe it's just progress on this myeloproliferative neoplasm. I don't know. Kind of, again, like I said, to kind of do this for myself to help kind of mentally articulate my thoughts a little bit better. And then if anybody wants to listen, watch, subscribe, like, comment, we can definitely do that. So again, do that for the channel. The comments, the likes would be the best thing. I don't care about subscriptions necessarily. If you're going through similar situations or you got questions, right, that's perfectly fine. So if not, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, night, morning, whatever it might be, and I'll talk to you later.